Most answers to this question are about acceptance. Be kinder to yourself, forgive yourself, stop the harsh internal voice. I want to give you a much older answer, and a much stranger one, from people who spent their entire lives on this single problem, and their answer isn't about being kinder to your thoughts at all. It's about no longer taking instructions from them. 4th century Egypt. Monks living alone in the desert, having discovered the hard way that removing every external problem does not produce an internal peace, it just makes the internal noise audible. So they studied the noise. And the man who studied it most carefully, Evagrius, arrived at a distinction that I think is the most useful idea in this entire tradition. He separated the arrival of a thought from the consent to it. A thought arrives. You didn't write it, you didn't choose it, it turned up. You're behind. You handled that badly. They think less of you than they say. This isn't going anywhere. You are not responsible for the arrival no more than you're responsible for the weather. Then there's a second event, and it's this one that decides everything. In the moment after arrival, you either engage with the thought or you don't. If you engage, it stops being a visitor and starts being you. And from that point you're not managing a thought, you're inside a mood, and the mood will run for hours and will feel like an accurate description of your life. The gap between those two events is very short, and almost never feels like a choice. That gap is where the entire practice lies. They called the skill of standing in it nepsis, watchfulness, not suppression, which they knew doesn't work, not positive replacement, which they'd have considered a fantasy. Just seeing the thing arrive as it arrives before it has time to sound like your own conclusion. Here's why this is a better answer than acceptance. If you're trying to be at peace with yourself by improving how you talk to yourself, you're still in the conversation. You've made yourself a participant in an argument with a voice that has infinite time and no obligation to be fair. You can win 1,000 of those and lose the next one. Watchfulness gets you out of the conversation. The thought arrives, you're not doing enough, and instead of agreeing or disputing it or affirming something nicer, you notice, that one again, around this hour, doesn't need answering. It doesn't feel like healing. It feels like nothing much at all, which is why it's undersold. But it compounds and it produces something acceptance rarely does: distance. And distance is what people actually mean when they say they want to be at peace with themselves. Not that they've become their own best friend. That the voice stopped being the only thing in the room. The desert version of this took decades and was in service of something explicitly religious. You don't need the destination. You need the distinction. The thought is not an instruction. You've just never once been told you were allowed to leave it unanswered.